day.
Yes. It's
Yes.
allowed. It's allowed.
It's allowed.
You can bend the law good.
In this case, it's
In
the
this
only
case,
time we
it's-
say you can
yes.
bend the law.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for coming this morning. Of course, for us to then be able to look into some of these issues. And when we talk about election preparedness and whether the money that is being asked for is necessary, or whether we're going to be looking into a sad situation of expenses that perhaps we could have avoided. Okay, before we get into it, Dennis took us to Cameroon this week.
Yes. That's located in Central Africa, bordered by Nigeria, Chad, Central African Republic, Equatorial Guinea, and is also known as Africa in miniature. Know why? Because it has beaches, deserts, mountains, rainforest, and savannas, all that in a single country. They're also rich in cocoa. We hope that someday we'll start buying Cameroonian chocolates, if you're a lover of chocolate. But let's go to the proverb. The river that forgets its source will dry up. The river that forgets its source will dry up. What are Cameroonians telling us? How would you interpret it?
Wow. Well, that's very wise. It's like we say, if you don't know where you are coming from, or if you forget where you are coming from, then you will be lost moving on to the future. You have to know your origins in order for you to know your present and also to plan your future. You have to know your identity. You have to know all those things that multiply and make you the total human that you are.
Well said. Well said.
Quite. So, as we have this conversation, we're about a year and 5 months to the next general election. Before that, there was a whole hullabaloo about the selection of the IEBC, a committee which you sat on.
Yes.
To then say, in order to prepare for the election, you needed new commissioners at the IEBC, and because of what we saw happen in after the last election, that meant that these positions were vacant. So this committee came into place to select who these individuals were. We eventually saw that they were selected, and now the IEBC has commissioners. They've since brought a bill, not a bill for law, but a bill in terms of a sheet of paper, an invoice. Thank you. They've since brought an invoice to Parliament, Treasury, and said, this is what we're going to need in order to run the election, between 64 to 67 billion shillings. Treasury says, well, all I have is 41. I'm going to start the question from there before we can look into preparedness. Would 41 billion shillings be able to cut the thing?
Well, it depends on on what the priorities are. You know, let me just start by saying it is indeed true that Kenya's election is one of the most expensive elections in the entire world. But there are reasons for it. The same politicians who want to limit how much is spent on elections are the same politicians who demand a certain kind of election. Many countries all over the world use different facilities to conduct elections. In Kenya, we want a certain kind of election that is not cheap. Let's look at the drivers of election. Before we even say, for me, it's not a negotiation of saying we only have 41 billion and not 60 as you want. It's an issue of asking ourselves, what exactly do you want this money for? Let's unpackage it. And then you look at the drivers for the costs. What are the key drivers for the cost? Once you do that, then you probably start adding up the math. I've been involved in elections since 1990. You know, just the return of multi-party elections in 92. That election was cheaper, even though it involved more political parties. Why? Because there were no requirements or demands from the political elite to have use of technology, to have a number of... you recall the number of registered voters then. There were less than 8 million people. Actually, much less. And the numbers increased. And now we are talking about, is it 22 million registered voters?
Yes.
And the key drivers of an election is actually the election staff.
Okay.
The election before 92 used to be conducted by provincial administration led by the director of elections, who was located at the office of the Attorney General. Subsequently, the Electoral Commission, the ECK, was revamped. Before it used to be concerned with the boundary delimitation. But in 92, it was the one that conducted the election. And then 97, 2002, and so on. So, as the Electoral Commission expanded the membership, it also expanded a number of number of registered voters. And as voters got expanded, people started asking that we need to have a limited number of people at per polling station. It used to be 1,000, then it moved on to, it used to be 2,000, then 1,000, now it is 700. So we have moved to 46,000, over 46,000 polling station, so that we can accommodate around 700 to, around that number of people. So 46,000 polling station plus times 6 clerks, let's say, in a polling station. So you find the IEBC now, today, employs more than 500,000. More than 500,000, maybe 550 plus election officials every election. And also, of course, when you have massive registration of voters. Now, imagine 550 million. Just put this into context, that the entire public service, with all the teachers, the police, everything, it's just about, just under a million, just about a million. In 2023, we had 992,000. Now we have maybe about 1 point something million employees in the entire public service. Imagine in one election, for a few days, you have more than half of that number. What that means, it means that you are paying those people. So half of what they're asking for, between 50% and 60% of that amount of money they're asking, is actually to go to pay those election officials. Countries like in the US and other places, most other countries in Africa, the election is conducted by civil servants. So they are already paid. So they don't get paid. The IEBC employs new people each election. And so you have to pay them in billions. Then it's not just paying them there. You have to also provide food for them, because they don't get paid until after the fact. So
we saw that as a bill of 1.1
exactly
1.1 billion shillings.
Yes, if you have been to, I've been to these elections. I've observed a lot of elections in Kenya and abroad and all over the world. Hundreds and hundreds of elections. If you go to all of them, you will find the transportation of moving more than 550,000 people all over the country. You have seen the cost of transporting them, transporting materials, feeding them, because you have to feed them, paying them, and you have seen that elections materials are transported by choppers. And then, now we are talking already about 60% of what they're asking for on the staff. Now imagine, I understand the IEBC is planning to register more, because every politician wants to have all the potential registered, all the potential voters out there, all of them registered. We all want everybody to have an opportunity to exercise their vote. And therefore, they go out and register. Let's just say, okay, they target 8 million. But let's just say they register about 5 million. And there are very many young people who are actually of age now. And they're almost 10 million people. And therefore, let's say they register 7 million of those. It means they will have to increase, unless we change the law to say that the polling station can have more than 1,000. It means that they will have to increase the polling stations from around over 46,000 to about 55,000 and or even more. If they increase the polling stations to about 55 to 60,000,
the bill goes up.
That means the bill will actually go up more than what they are even asking for. and we have not even come to the KIMS kits. They have been talking about these KIMS kits being obsolete. Kenyans have a terrible trust deficit, very high. We don't trust anyone. In fact, I wrote my PhD on elections in Kenya and Tanzania and in this region. And I can tell you, one of the research strings that I was following was the reason why we have this, the ballot paper. The ballot paper of Kenya has over 15, I don't even know how many, security features embedded in a ballot paper. It's not even, it has more security features than our legal tender, than our money. Can you imagine that? And why do we have that? Because we cannot trust anyone.
Where did that come from?
Trust deficit.
Yeah.
We don't trust our systems, we don't trust anyone. So of course, first thing, we go with all these incredible security features, and we say, no, we can't print ballot papers locally. Okay, for by-elections we do, but for essentially the others, we print them abroad. So, in fact, during elections, these foreign companies that print money and other security, military level kind of printing, they stop everything else to print our ballot paper. We are famous for this. And of course, people go, and also politicians and everyone. And all this, it comes like millions. If we have, let's say, expecting to have 22 million voters, we print more than 110% of the number, so that then in the event that the ballot papers are spoiled or something like that, then we can replace them. So we are talking about millions of ballot papers, each with incredible security features, and that have to be printed from abroad. Then, of course, the famous servers and all those things. And then the KIMS kits. All those things, they cost a lot of money. This is why most countries in Africa and abroad don't spend a lot of money. Like, for example, in India, they vote electronically. And they actually manage to do, they are the biggest democracy in the world because of the numbers involved and the simplicity of their election. It's a miracle how they do it. But here, we don't even, some people are even thinking about, they don't want to use so much technology because, well, you don't trust these people. And you see, during the IEBC selection panel, the selection process, there was all this mistrust on what the kind of angel that we want to put at IEBC, so that we can be able to believe that if I have my person there, then my vote will be protected. So all these things add up. And then I also noticed that in their budget they have they are requesting for money to build an election center.
Uchaguzi center.
Do you know, it is about time. And there's no better time like now. And I say this because the first time when the South African IEC was established after 1994 election, there was a need to actually construct a house. Has any of you been to Anniversary Towers? If you have been to Anniversary Towers, you would actually give these people money very quickly to get out of town. First, it is in the center of town. They are sharing the building with a lot of other businesses. Do you know the people who work there always complain during elections? That entire month, or even before, their businesses are disrupted, everything is disrupted. And also, of course, election is a top secret business. And therefore, can you imagine how many people are coming in and going? For me, I think it's about time that they need to get out of the town, get their own compound, like here, the Standard Center. Here you are on your own and you can transact your own business without interrupting and harassing other people. So for me, there is nothing, okay, maybe they can look at some of the specific budgetary items and see how they can reduce it. But if Kenyans, especially the political elite, want a clean election, they don't trust each other, they don't trust the IEBC, they want to have all this, then they must be prepared to pay for it.
Is there, this is the thing, that obviously this deficit of trust comes from somewhere, that you didn't always have 15 security features on the ballot. That was not always the case. This was an introduction that came as a result of something else. That when people look at the IEBC, it didn't come looking at the chairperson of the IEBC as already tainted, if not that something had happened in the past. So is spending of the money for the security features, or spending of the money so that people can protect the vote, the answer? Or is it putting a Band-Aid on something that needs surgery? Isn't it that these issues must actually be dealt with?
Yes. Personally, I don't think security features is helpful. I don't think printing ballots abroad is helpful. I actually would even suggest that one of the biggest things that we need here is actually civic and voter education. The more people understand the electoral process, the necessity to participate in that election, the importance of ensuring that they choose or they elect people of integrity. Professional integrity is what is lacking. And people who have an interest. You see, this business of trying to build alliances on ethnic lines, or on trying to ride on the ignorance of the people is what is a problem. For me, I would say, the first thing, I would actually, instead of increasing polling stations, I would reduce them by half. I would say, if you want to reduce the money, then we increase the number of people in a polling station to 1,000 or 1,500. Because I know that if you have people going to vote in a polling station, 1,000 people or 1,500 people can very easily vote in between. It's like what? 12 hours. Between 6 and 6. People, more than even in one polling station, more than even 5,000 people can vote. What you need to do is to have a structured and a deliberate voter and civic education program that we did like during the Katiba. Before the 2002, before the disbandment of the CKRC,
yes,
before by Moi, yes, that level of voter and civic education that facilitated the Yash Guy led commission to collect views from all over Kenya. It actually translated into a katiba of what people want. So if we have an equivalent of voter education and civic education like that, we create awareness. We try to get as many people as possible elected, and we gear them towards electing people of integrity. All those things will become a thing of the past.
We talk about,
and also building confidence, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, and trust. Yeah. In our institutions.
We talk about voter education. For many have looked at it in terms of it's Mwananchi who needs that. But there's another school of thought that says the people who actually need voter education so much is the political class. Because it is the political class that has created this mistrust very much. Because if you look at what even is being said right now in these political rallies that you see, hautaiba kura yetu. The more that continues to be peddled out there, Wananchi down here will pick that because they trust their leaders. They want certain individuals to be in power. And the moment they start speaking in terms of hamtaiba kura yetu, that mistrust is also picked by the Mwananchi. So we need to have political discipline, individuals who trust in systems, individuals who trust that these bodies that have been put there are, number one, there to do good and are there for the benefit of Mwananchi. That once we clean up the mess that is there in the political class, it is easy for Mwananchi to trust in the systems. Why do I say that? Today we have a marvel that is called M-Pesa. I'll use that as an example. If you are in the United States and you have the M-Pesa app, you will send your money in the country and you will trust that it has gotten where it ought to be. If you are here and you're transacting with someone else elsewhere, you trust that security that is within that system has secured your money, because it is digital currency. No one touches money that is in that app, but you trust that it is money. If we can do that in the country, then we are as well able to come up with a system that is locally made. A system that is able to assure that our elections is cheap, that our election is verifiable, and our election has the security features, not 15 security features, but a security feature that will make us say our election is free, fair, verifiable, and transparent. But we fail to do that because the political class, for some weird reason, does not want to have that conversation. And as a result, Wananchi stop trusting.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And I would like to further unpackage that as well. One of the issues that we would need to do beyond the trust deficit and the need for civic education, in some cases, in fact, as you say, the political elite require voter education and civic education. They assume that they know. And I can tell you that they don't. And I'm speaking out of experience. It's not because of what they say, because of course that is also driven by selfishness. Most public officers, especially in those who are appointed by politicians or politicians themselves, do not realize or accept the fact that they hold these public positions in trust for Kenyans. They go there for their own benefits. And this is one of the problems. I don't want to appear like I am, how do you say, whitewashing. But it is difficult to say some of these things without looking a little bit parochial. So allow me.
Let's go with it. Yeah.
Yes. So look at the people that we select. We select commissioners. We hope and pray, because we don't trust that, because they know somebody has pushed them there. There is a possibility that they feel that they owe somebody
a favor.
A favor. And therefore, when they have an opportunity, they are human. When they have an opportunity, they will think about whoever they think they owe a favor to, and they will be generous. And they could easily turn the other eye. I have seen, and I've done research in this, some of the key ways in which you rig an election. You rig an election an election is very easily rigged in the absence of awareness. Because that's why I'm talking about civic education. I go back and forth on this, civic and voter education. Okay, voter education is about the knowledge of voting processes.
Yes.
So that is a big deal, because I was in the LSK. I deviate a little bit just to demonstrate to you. I was in the elections board of the Law Society. We have just finished the election on Monday. We declared the winners. Can you believe that in several polling stations, one, for example, had more than 100 rejected votes? These are advocates. This is why I was explaining to someone else, just because you have a degree or even a PhD, it doesn't make you, and that is why your point is very valid. Just because you have an education and you've been in politics for long, it doesn't mean that you're actually aware. And that's why we are talking about voter education. So that's separately, we bank that to next year, because voter education is the one you do just before an election. What I'm talking about is civic education. Civic education requires education on the rights and duties of a citizen. You as a voter, What is your responsibility? What are your rights and what are your duties? Why must you be able to know the importance of choosing a person of integrity? The politician, why do they need to know who they are? You are offering yourself as a candidate. There are certain responsibility that come with that. Every position of power or authority comes with immense responsibility. The question is, do you know those responsibility? And that's the question you're asking. If you know your responsibility, you should not be threatening people. You should be actually, the biggest purveyors of knowledge, of civic education, they are supposed to be the politicians. When they go out there, they are supposed to tell voters, potential voters, to go out, get their IDs and register to vote. Not so that they can vote and, remove this and bring this one, but so that they can exercise their constitutional responsibility as well as their right. The other thing also is the issue of saying, for example, if you look around Kenya today, we are all charged. And what are the reasons why? You see, there is a near rupture in ODM.
Yes.
There is also battle lines are drawn. UDA and UDA supporters. The united government in waiting is also, and each one of them is playing this. This is why, for example, when you compare politics with football, you say there are rules in football, in soccer. When you are playing, there are certain rules and certain conduct you cannot. But in politics, it is a free for all. There are no rules. The strongest survive, the one with the biggest number of goons. And now you find the government is actually abdicating its role, its basic primary role of providing security. I'm not saying any one of them has, both sides have goons, all of them.
Everybody's guilty of this.
But everybody must take responsibility for their actions. And also, they play their own roles. If you look at the government, what is the primary duty of any state? Is to secure its citizens and to ensure the citizens are protected, their property is protected, they have access, and they can secure their human rights, and they can pursue their fullest potential. So it's not, you cannot politicize that. You have to say, no matter who is hiring goons, that should not be a case in Kenya, because the buck stops with the government. The buck stops with the head of state, and everybody in the executive is supposed to ensure the protection of every single Kenyan. You cannot say because the opposition and other people and politicians are hiring goons, we are now going to sit back and watch them kill each other. You still have the duty, the primary duty. And that's why we are saying you must compartmentalize everything and look at your responsibilities, your rights, and so on. Because it is so much easier for people to blame, like what you are seeing now. I was astounded and shocked to see the Minister of Interior stand up in front of, is it Senate?
It was Senate yesterday, actually.
And say, politicians are hiring goons. We know that on both sides. We know that. But what are you doing about it? Because you are the Minister of Interior. You cannot stand there and say, okay, they are hiring goons, and start threatening people. No, you cannot abdicate your responsibility because of politicization of security. You must be firm. You must arrest the situation. We cannot go in 2027 like that.
But when you hear expressions like that, that seems to me that it's a buffer for the inherent issue that we're dealing with here.
Absolutely.
Because you've given examples of systems where state employees are the volunteers of an election.
Yes.
I mean, hell would sooner freeze over than that happened in Kenya, for example, because of the lack of trust. Somebody's going to imagine, well, if Koki was the one who was running this polling station, she's definitely going to make sure that her people get through. If Dennis was the one running another polling station, for sure his people will get through. But it came from somewhere. Now, the abdication of responsibility at certain levels seems to be the reason across board. It doesn't matter whether you're serving in a public office. It doesn't matter whether you're a mother at home or a teacher in school.
And mediocrity.
Absolutely. The very basic sense of accountability when it comes to doing things seems to be the poison that has all this, that has started all of this.
Absolutely.
Now, the question is, how do you reroute that? When we talk about voter suppression, it's real, Koki, whether we want to admit it or not.
Absolutely.
There are people who want to, there is voter suppression happening in Kenya today. There is lack of voter education in Kenya, and it is by design. Because why wouldn't you want, as a commission, why wouldn't you want, as a government, for your people to know exactly what was going on, who's doing it, and how to work in the system? Why wouldn't you want that to happen?
Absolutely. You are right completely. And I'm really happy to hear this, because I hope a lot more people are listening. Because, as we say, as much as we are talking about civic and voter education, there is also the issue of accountability.
Yes.
Today, most of these public institutions are totally unaccountable. They get away with murder. For example, there is this feeling, you watch, as I say, I watch the people given responsibility. I keep on going back to the people we are paying in the public service, the ministers, the government, because each regime has a group of people that have, at the time, the responsibility to protect, the responsibility to deliver services, and so on. So when those people cannot be held accountable by ourselves because of all these hurdles they are put on the way, and because they have totally abdicated, as you say, they have totally abdicated their duties, and they are standing there in the blame game. For me, every public officer who stands up and sounds like they're overwhelmed by their responsibility, I think they have no capacity to be in that position.
Thank you.
If you cannot do your job, step aside and let people who can. This business of standing there and complaining when you are the one with the apparatus of the state, for me, it just shows either you have been put there without the credentials that you require. Because look at the people who have the responsibility. You see, members of the United Opposition or United Alternative Government, they have no public duties. You see, we are not paying them to deliver security for us. We are not paying them to deliver services. But so they have the luxury of standing up there and saying, what are you doing about this? And they're asking legitimate questions. We are asking these same questions. And that's why we are saying, how do you change a society that has gone rogue from its leadership to and that is how do you change attitude?
Yeah.
Like, let's look, for example, at the women's movement in this country. And even the way we have moved. The electoral commission we have today is not the one we had in 1992. When I started, when I was first getting involved in this business of elections. It is an issue of progressive and incremental knowledge and knowledge dissemination. Because civic education is what has helped us to come to where we are, to have the constitution we have, to have the constitutional commissions that we have, to have all these institutions. And now it is an issue of implementation. Is that what is happening and why are we not implementing? It's because of the word called impunity.
Yeah.
When people who are responsible get away with murder, it becomes impunity. Impunity happens when people get away with everything because they start saying mtadu. Yeah. So you see people doing the wrong thing. nobody is holding them accountable. For example, the primary duty of our National Assembly and our Senate is accountability, to ensure these public positions and people who hold them are held accountable. There is also the concept of public participation, which was a novelty of our new constitution, our 2010 constitution. All these things are not being. That is Parliament doing its oversight duties? Is Parliament, both, when I say Parliament, I mean both houses,
yes.
Are they actually efficiently and effectively carrying out their duties of oversight? You find of the three arms of the state, the one that is struggling to do the right thing is the judiciary. And I can tell you they're overwhelmed because the other two have sort of come up together and made it impossible. So when you say we have only 41 billion out of the 62 or the 60, whatever amount that they want, without actually rationalizing what you are seeing, then you should expect danger. And that's why I'm saying, and I'll come back to, rigging is real, voter suppression is real. You are right. And voter suppression is done either deliberate or by default. And I can give you examples. Like, for example, one of the reasons why you have a problem, why you a lot of people will be suppressed, is that they will, and now if the money that they're asking for, you ask a budget of 60 billion, maybe it is overstretched, but you are not rationalizing it item by item. You are just saying tutawapatia 41 because that's what we have. The rest, what will happen with the 20? And what was that 20 going to be used for? Was it to be used to pay? You see, when you reduce a budget, the first item to suffer is voter education and civic education, because it is it's sort of expendable. And people say, oh, it's not very important, like the materials for elections, like the people we need to employ. So when you reduce budgets, you are reducing key issues. For me, the most important aspect of the electoral process is civic and voter education. For me, that is the one. It's not the ballot paper, it's not the materials, it's not even the employees. It's none of those. It is creating awareness. How do people get suppressed? When you come to the training, that is a second casualty, the training of election officials. It is done cheaply and quickly to save money, because instead of 60 billion, you have 41. So you prioritize, because you must have ballots, you must have ballot boxes, you must have a KIMS kit, you must have all these other officials, and you must transport this, we must chopper them or whatever. You must have all these motor vehicles, because an election official is not supposed to go with others in the same vehicle carrying election materials. They have to hire a car so that they are not put in public means. So all these things add up. So what suffers? What suffers is a training of the officials, and therefore one of the ways in which you can actually rig an election is you can focus the training of officers and take the best trained officers in the areas where you want the biggest turnouts. If you want to reach out to mobilize for registration of voters, that's why you find in certain areas during voter registration, certain areas have registered very high numbers of
Koki,
of
you're
voters.
saying this like this is something that happens.
This is something that happens. Look at the statistics. As I said, I wrote a PhD on this. I write my articles. I mean, in my column that I used to have here, I used to write on elections. This is my area. I've done this for over 35 years. 36, in fact, this year. So if I've been doing this, I've done research. I can tell you, Moi used to say, if you want to steal maize, you steal it in the shamba. You don't steal it in the granary. I will explain. When you go to the shamba of maize and you want to steal, you go to somebody's shamba, let's take an acre, not hata sio kubwa. You uproot a maize cob, and that corner, you go on the other corner, inside uko katikati.
Not all in one place.
Not all in one place. You just pull there, and then unakanyaga hiyo, alafu unaenda. You will steal a lot of maize that way. But when the farmers harvested them and put in the granary, you cannot, because they know, the farmer knows that I put 50 bags of... so if they come and they find instead of 20, there is 18, they know they are stolen. But in the shamba, there isn't. So that's how you do. You go to the highest place with the highest number of potential voters. No civic education, no voter education. The issuance, the immigration, they are not... The IDs, they are not issued. Or... So you go to some places, actually, you find IDs stuck in these government offices. Lots and lots of them in rubber bands. And you ask them, is IDs zimekaa hapa kwa muda gani? I say, these ones were requested for thousands of, I don't know, last year, the year before, iko na miaka 3 hapa. And then you say, if somebody came and applied for that ID and is sitting there, there must be a reason. Because then when you go to do research and you ask people, they say, I applied for an ID 8 months ago, 1 year. I keep on calling, I keep on saying, because it is far from my location. And they tell me, bado. So those bados are there. So one way of doing this is that you can hold on this and make sure. And then, of course, you go and say, and do na marafiki zako zote, you bring the people, and then we facilitate you to come and register for you get IDs, and then after that, we facilitate you to go and register for voters. So, and of course, because we have, I mean, I'm not saying that this IEBC has not had the time to start registration. We are actually watching them. Because one way of suppression is violence, intimidation. Another way is lack of voter education and also civic education. The other one is actually ensuring that you deploy the malfunctioning equipment like Kim's kits and all those others. You deploy so that or you deploy without batteries, so that you go to so you go to a place and you find this equipment is not working. You have people who have driven or who have they have taken public and now you are making 500 shillings per day. You prioritize 100 shillings to use to take boda to go and register for vote. You will not do that tomorrow. If you go there and you find the equipment is not working or it cannot capture your features, your biometrics, and you are told, Rudi kesho ama Rudi Jumatatu, you will debate, out of my 500 that I'm making per day for food and whatever will I keep on spending this 100 to go for? You say no.
And Ambassador, this is a point where then the body that is IEBC has to step in to rectify.
Has a lot of responsibility.
Because
absolutely.
Here we are talking about the commission that we have at the moment, and many Kenyans are saying this commission kidogo, we do not trust it. Why? Because of the by-elections that happened. We know how that happened. The individuals who were killed during that process, and it took IEBC a long time to respond to that fact. We know that individuals they were fined and all that. But beyond that, now here's a question where even as we talk about the registration exercise that happened, it has remained to be lull. There is no update on the same. Even on the show, we struggle to get information on how that went, what are the numbers, what are we working with. And that says IEBC itself has to position itself as a body that can be trusted. Because as we stand right now, Kenyans are saying IEBC iko shida, because there is also talk that individuals who are in IEBC have been sent there by politicians to do their bidding.
People are watching them, absolutely. And
so how does IEBC turn around and assure us that they will deliver?
Absolutely. That's a very, very important point and a question you have asked. Because IEBC at the moment, they are 50-50. People have confidence in them and a few others don't. But there is a growing mistrust, and they need to arrest that. The biggest activity that IEBC is going to be engaged in is going to begin on 29th of March, and that is a countrywide massive registration of voters. We can sort of excuse them for the other registration, which because they were new and it was not really, you know, the big registration campaigns. We are watching this one, and this is why every Kenyan who is a potential voter with an ID card should be ready everywhere in Kenya to test first the capacity and the credentials of the IEBC to be able to carry out this mandate.
Right.
Secondly, their trustworthiness and the confidence that they can be able to get from us. And we can only test that when they go out, all of them. We can say, because of the politicization of these by-elections, and because IEBC had just come in, we can say they were overwhelmed by the political elite which misconducted themselves. But it is indeed true there was absolute voter suppression because of violence. When there is violence, women, older people, and mothers, and you know, vulnerable groups, they don't show up. They will not show up to vote. So you find that if you allow goons, and this is, I remember during Kivuito's time, people were actually fined. The current president was among those people who were fined a lot of money, and for misconduct, for violating the electoral code of conduct. What we are expecting now, among others, what we are expecting is IEBC now to put their foot down, and you say, okay, we were new when you misbehaved. Now we are not going to allow these shenanigans to happen. And number one, we are going to make sure every eligible voter all over the country, we will train our people, we will deploy equitably, the equipment that we have all over the country. We are not going to favor any region. And therefore, we are also going to ensure that every politician who hires a goon faces the law. Because IEBC collaborates with the police, with all this. It is a requirement. They do this. So they are going to, if they don't do that, then we can now start judging them.
Okay.
And giving them the confidence that they want. But they have an opportunity. This, for me, is a clean slate.
Yeah, and an opportunity to do that.
To do right.
A few minutes
to do the right thing. Yes.
But to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
And it's clear that the system with which we currently have is not working, Koki. It is not working. And that there have been folks who have suggested that you can actually have, the world is using systems that are foolproof. The world is using technology that doesn't allow human intervention or interference. That you can actually run an election on 36 shillings. 36 shillings as opposed to the 2,200 shillings. Why would you not want to employ such technology to run an election? Because you deal with the issue that becomes foolproof, you eliminate human interaction, so you don't have the chance of anybody being involved in it. It just seems that because you don't want to accept those options, then that you are vested in ensuring that that trust or that lack of trust remains, and that you can continue to control things.
Absolutely. In fact, I give you an example. There are several problems that exist in the IEBC now with the technology that they have. Granted, some of the equipment they have is obsolete, and that's why they're asking for money. But they must be able to be accountable for the money they are going to be given for this. For me, I would say, give them the money they want. Rationalize, give them the money, give them the opportunity. And then they buy all this equipment. First and foremost, the technology of mathematics or whatever it is must be removed from the picture. Everything that they found there in terms of those questionable things, the server business, the IEBC has capacity to own and have its own server resident in Kenya. We should not go anywhere else. We are spending a lot of money on this technology. We must be able to own it, train our own people, and service it ourselves. So this nonsense of having foreigners holding our equipment must end. And I'm looking forward to this commission trying to end that. Every other procurement that was done that is questionable must be cleaned. We must start from new people. We must procure new service providers, new everything, new equipment, and start this process. They must also own and take responsibility for everything that we have. We must train our people so that they know, so that we can deploy everybody out there. And that's why I'm saying, I agree with you. Because of the trust deficit, maybe we can't apply. And also because of lack of capacity, because we don't have a lot of time. You said we have only a year and
5 months.
so the training of we can't convert everything into elections. For example, that into technology, so that we are going to go progressively, but we must start from a clean slate. Everything that was there before that has raised questions must be cleaned, must be cleared, and the IEBC must demonstrate they can be trusted, that they are not favoring any side of the divide. They are being watched, and they are being watched because we believe they have the capacity, the credentials, and now they have to prove themselves.
They have to prove that.
Yes, they have to do that. And they have to work with whatever money they have. They have to work with whatever resources that they have. Because I believe, even if they deny, because sometimes sabotage can lead to them getting less money than they hope. Whatever they get, they are working with people who are not trustworthy. So they work with what they have, and they change this. They can't change this.
And that's
they have
the thing.
They
have the capacity to do
they
this,
have
and
the
they
capacity.
actually can.
We didn't just select anybody there.
From the moon.
Yes.
Essentially.
We have trust now on them. Let them continue earning that trust and the respect that we have.
And they have to,
because it is not going to last for long.
It's one to watch, and we want to thank you for joining us in this conversation. I mean, some fresh things for us to then be able to cast our eye and to view it differently. But it must be, and that there's some things that are non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
Ambassador Dr. FCS Koki Muli, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy. I'm always happy to be back.
And don't be a stranger.
I shall not be a stranger. You know, I come all the way from Kitui to be with you.
I love to see it. Thank you very much.
Asanteni sana.
8:02. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4. This is The Situation Room. The only way to stay